right, calling
Here. Mike Darty.
Here.
Bob Mueller.
here. Before we get started, our beloved mayor is home recuperating, and we certainly wish him well. Talked with him very briefly, and seems like he's feeling better, but definitely on the mend. So hopefully he's back as soon as possible. All right, approval of minutes. Approval of the August 13, 2018 minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 13th, 2018.
Second.
Christie made a motion, Mike second. Call the roll, please.
Tom Bergamini.
Yes.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Darty.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Matt Zach.
Present, not voted, since I was not at the meeting.
Good. Approval of the August 27th, 2018 special meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting of August 27th, 2018, the special meeting minutes.
Second.
Christie made a motion and Carter second.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Darty.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Matt Zach.
Yes.
Tom Bergamini.
Yes.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
All right. Fire Authority, Mike?
Nothing since the caucus, just kind of reiterate large loss over in Villa Hills the department had a few weeks ago. The new ambulance is up and running. I did fail to call anybody today to see if they were coming here, so I'll try to get that lined up for the caucus. Radio is going to be purchased in probably November, pushing that as long as possible to try to keep the warranty going as long as possible. And I think that was all that I reported at the caucus, and that's it.
Thank you. Finance, Matt?
Passing around the report, there's an extra one over here, April, if you didn't get one, but
There's an extra one here.
George will share with you for a second. So just kind of providing you financial report for the 2 months of our fiscal year. So this is through 8/31 of 2018. So again, only 2 months in, it's not going to show you a whole lot of information. On the revenue side, obviously we have not sent out the tax bills yet, so there's not a significant amount of revenue on the books yet. You do see that our IPT is up year over year a little bit. But again, property taxes have not been paid. Payroll gross receipts is down a little bit, but our utility franchise fee is up. And overall on the other revenue, interest income is up because interest rates are higher, but our shelter rental revenue is down. So all in, we're about even. I mean, we're off by $1,000 2 months of this year versus 2 months of the prior year. On the expense side, very similar story. Administration expenses, we're only up about 0.5%, so I'm going to call that flat year over year. And you can see the big categories there of the expenses. The biggest change really is that health, life, dental insurance is up, but we did have more payroll periods this year versus last year, so we did have a larger assessment of that. And then the PVA tax preparation actually surprised me a little bit. That was up almost 22% year over year. So the PVA charge to us was about $17,000 this year versus $14,000 last year. So it's not a significant dollar amount, but it's a big percentage. Public Works is up about 10%. That's really driven kind of by payroll. Some of the expenses for the park grant for the bathroom that they're doing, then some equipment purchases and some maintenance on the truck. So some needed equipment and maintenance expenditures. The good line item, safety services, again is down due to the police contract savings. Offset a little bit by a forward payment we made to the fire authority. So as you recall from the last meeting, we paid a fire authority payment ahead of time. So we kind of prepaid a little bit to help them with the delivery of the ambulance that Mike just spoke of. So all told, if you look at this, the grand scheme of things, we're actually having a loss year to date, but it is a less of a loss than we were prior year to date. So again, hard to read into 2 months of numbers, and we haven't really billed our property taxes, but that's kind of the data. And then the second page, again, it's just a visual representation of those numbers, kind of showing you where the revenues are coming in and where the expenses are being spent. The wonderful thing about the expense pie chart, you'll see there are 4 categories, but there's only 3 colors. That's because we have no debt expense or transfer out so far. So there has been no debt expenditures. We only have one outstanding loan. We only make one payment a year. So.
Are we obligated to use the tax prep service that the county uses?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I don't know for a fact.
Well,
Well-
go ahead.
We've looked at using, we've talked to other cities, and, about a number of different things at collections, and most everybody goes with PVA,
Right.
with King County, and they do the best job. We've talked about it, everybody's paying basically the same rate, and it just, they put new software in, and I believe that.
That's what raised the expenses. Good question.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Police report, Sergeant Hall.
Hey guys, Chief again, apologize for not being here. Over the past month, we had a pretty high level of activity. You've seen, we've had about 220 traffic stops, had 24 arrests. You can kind of look through the report and see some of the things. We're addressing some of the drug issues that we've come across. We're actually taking them head steam, full on. Some things kind of got put to the back burner, kind of a thing that once we've taken over, we've sought out the help of the drug strike force. We're hoping to see some, we've made some really good arrests, a lot of trafficking charges, and we're progressing even further. That I can tell you one traffic stop we had actually yielded 56 grams of methamphetamines in Crescent Springs, which is a very large, sizable amount of methamphetamine. So, and that's tied into, we've got Boone County Sheriff's Department, Florence Police, and Drug Strike Force, DEA is also involved. So there's some things that are obviously we're working towards and getting some assistance on, but we're actually making pretty good headway with some things. So we're pretty happy with that. We've solved several cases, some theft cases that we've had, one at Crescent Springs Hardware as well that I know of. Continuing to work on our traffic complaints that we have coming into the city for the city's certain areas, back towards Sierra and Meadowwood and things like that. We're just trying to, speeding is probably one of the number one complaints that residents have, and we try to address that at each and every single one that comes in. So. Continuing to, we've got Tunnels to Tower coming up, finalizing the security for that. Music Fest is probably one of the biggest things that we're finalizing, getting prepared for that and geared up. The last thing that I really kind of have, before you guys have any questions, if just for information, the I-75 project, if you guys see all the barrels out there and everything like that, I talked to the foreman just this past week. They are 42% complete. So they are behind. Very much so, and they are definitely going to November 1 because apparently I think he said $350,000 a day that they get penalized for not being complete. So just look for seeing the barrels for a little bit more, and they were supposed to close off the ramp from Buttermilk to southbound this past weekend, but obviously tropical storm, Gordon, and a wonderful several inches of rain that we had, the monsoon that we had kind of delayed all that, but I look forward, you look to see that coming.
I probably should know this, but I don't. But what is the grand scheme of that I-75 project? Are they just repairing concrete?
They are repairing concrete. They're actually pulling up all the, you probably know a little bit more of the joints. They're pulling up all the joints, clearing them out, blowing them out, and then resealing and refilling the joints in. I guess that has to do with the longevity, not obviously keep the roads for as long as possible and everything like that. So hopefully it won't affect us much longer after November 1, but I'm sure another project will come up after that. So.
I think I mentioned something to you about the bike patrols. It's nice
Yes.
to see that amount of
Yes.
activity in the report. I mean, that's
Absolutely. We've continued.
Big
And
proponent.
one of the best areas that we have is obviously, like I've said before, up around Home Depot and over Hazelwood and things like that. So we definitely have our bike officers out there, and we're trying to get as much. One of them did an endo the other day, so that was caught on body cam. If anybody wants to see the footage, it's kind of disheartening, to be quite honest.
And do you have a couple in the academy or one?
Yeah, let me touch base on that. I apologize about that. Really, the two that we have in the academy right now are scheduled to graduate October 19th. So they only have a little bit more than a month to go. I think it's 5 weeks, 6 weeks. They're in their 5 weeks to go after this week's completed. So once they get out, then they'll go through our field training program, and hopefully we can see them out on the road within anywhere between 8 and 12 weeks.
So first of the year.
We're shooting for December, mid-December by the time that they're out. The one officer that's in the academy actually comes to us with almost 11 years of experience from New Richmond, Ohio, but they wouldn't take his time in Ohio, his certification, so he actually agreed to go through the 23-week academy. I don't know if he's a better man than I am. I don't think I honestly would do that. but he worked for 11 years over there and he wanted to come over here. So he comes out with a great amount of experience. The other young gentleman, he's young at heart, and I've known him for a long time, but he was previously a Boone County jailer. His brother's a deputy at Boone County, and he's really hitting the ball rolling. So we've got a couple of really good guys that will be out and ready to hit the street and provide us with some service. So.
You're thinking mid-December for those?
Mid-December, I'm hoping that they're out on their own. I don't want to give them that threshold. I don't want to say this is the hard date because some people take the training a little bit different than others. You know that.
So field training is with an officer?
Field training is with a field training officer, whether they're certified or not. It's somebody that's been an experienced officer. They get daily graded, which we call daily observation reports. And we use the San Jose model, which is the field training program that's used. There's 2 different programs out there, an FTO program and a PTO program, police training officer and field training officer. The San Jose model requires a certain amount of hours of observation for the officers to be able to pass and be put out to solo patrol.
So when they come online, you'll step back everybody else's hours, just kind of even that out?
What I think what we'll do is we'll be able to have our coverage, and you'll see the overtime that we have that's been the hit for us for, obviously trying to meet the mandates and the hours of requested. You'll see that go away.
Good.
So that's the biggest thing, because as we're operating right now, we're down those officers, and once they are out, you will see that step back. So they'll probably fulfill like a mid-shift, but that's the coverage that we need.
When those new officers come online and have passed the field training and are on their solo, where do you think that you will assign them?
It'll vary, to be quite honest with you, because what we do now is we kind of give everybody a mix. I try to give everybody an opportunity. Obviously you guys know it. If you look at the numbers, the city of Crescent Springs is a busier city, absolutely, than Villa Hills. We know that. That's historically as it is. And that's fine. So some of the younger guys really like being over in Crescent Springs to where there's a little more activity for them.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily fair, because I want everybody to get to know the entire department. So being well-rounded is one thing that I like, and I try to make a key for absolutely everybody.
Sure.
So take your time in Villa Hills, because if I have you just sit in Villa Hills and then the big call comes to Crescent Springs, you might not know the area or know the people that you need to be with or who you need to contact. So I switch them, rotate them in and out.
Okay.
So, and then they will be out with they are always going to be out with somebody else, and most likely they'll shadow a supervisor with my schedule, to be quite honest with you. So they'll be out the entire time.
So they don't just get stuck at River Ridge sitting in the lobby?
Nope, they don't. No. So they branch out and have to make their go out and learn it all.
Is there a traffic officer that's going to be assigned to River Ridge for mornings? I've noticed there was not one when I did.
We don't have, this has been a battle back and forth with River Ridge.
Okay.
And I don't want to say a battle, that's not necessarily the right term. We have an SRO, he's there. We were directing traffic for the longest time in the mornings and the afternoons.
It was a big help.
And it is a big help. The school asked us to stop once they re-implemented a new traffic flow pattern.
Okay.
They said we were kind of messing it up. And we're like, okay, all right, I think we kind of have a little idea about the traffic, but they said that's, so all we do on occasion now is monitor it. And if we need to step in, we can go and step in.
Okay.
But it might be something that we need to actually go and revisit and maybe just kind of seek out, do some observations with it and kind of go. But we're always open. I mean, if we have an officer that's available, and that was one of the things, is we would usually have somebody go up there. If calls dictate and you got pulled away from it, you weren't able to obviously do it.
Sure. Okay.
So, it's kind of a weird, goofy, sharp curve. Not a really sharp curve, but a blind curve is the phrase I was looking for. So,
I've asked this twice and I can't remember. The transaction called a TX.
that is a telephone call. So when somebody calls in and says, hey, we want to talk to an officer,
I kept saying
They put
it's
a TX.
trespassing. No, I couldn't call it the phone.
TX
Thank
is
you.
a telephone call. That's all it is.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Public Works, Julie?
We'll be setting up a 911 memorial tomorrow. They'll be having a 911 memorial at the park. We're getting ready to cut grass as soon as it dries out. We were out checking drains today after the heavy rains. Everything was fine. We had a couple of small trees down on Eubanks we had to get out. We got those out. Everything's open down there. We're starting to trim some trees back for the residents off of Western Reserve. We had a couple of calls the other day about some limbs hitting the buses, so I told them to get them the next couple of days. So we'll be starting doing that tomorrow. We got number 40 back, which is a pickup truck with the lift gate. They put a transmission in it, and it's okay. and we had to put a buffer on number 30, and it's okay too. That's all I have.
Can you tell me the status of the Charters of Freedom?
The what?
The Charters of Freedom project?
What about it?
The status of the construction?
It's on hold right now
Okay.
because of all the wet weather and stuff and everything, even the bathrooms.
Okay.
Everything is just soaked
Yeah.
and stuff. Now, the bathrooms, we got the plumbing in, and we got the people come up and did the inspection on it today, so we hope to pour the floor on it Thursday, and then the block man will be coming in next week and start laying the block.
All right.
Okay?
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joey. Events and Recreation, April.
We are, I know. Everything.
Can you give a
is,
report and take notes at the exact same time?
Yeah, I know,
I'm gonna watch
it's
this.
We're finalizing everything for Music Fest, getting down to less than a month left here. Banners will go up Wednesday after the memorial ceremony is complete. We really didn't want to stick them up there with
Makes
that going on. We did get a couple more sponsorships in, so we should be in pretty good shape. And besides events committee, I do want to mention tax bills did go out today.
Good.
That's all I have.
Back to the Music Fest, did we hear from La Rosa's?
No, we've not heard from
You're
Lourdes.
kidding.
Nope.
Ugh, that's frustrating.
I'll add something to it. I was asked about the transportation for the Music Fest. And we were going to be using, at one point in time early on, tank buses for transportation. Due to the timelines and Reds games and first one thing and another, we're not able to use the tank buses. So we made arrangements with Executive Charter, who provided minivans for our 911 dedication.
I thought for sure he was gonna say we're bringing the horse and carriages from Christmas time.
That's-
I thought for sure that's where
it's
we were
coming
going.
up.
Oh, okay.
So April contacted Kenton County School District and is trying to get some school buses. She's requested 4. We were down to 2, we went back to 4. If we get those 4, we'll probably still do the vans for the maneuverability of them. We were gonna cancel them, but talking to the mayor, both mayors, I believe they think it's a good idea that we keep them so you don't have to fill a whole school bus. They got vans that can go to the different lots down through here and back. So that's the plan right now. The school board's supposed to be meeting this evening, I believe, April, and making a decision whether we get the school buses. If we don't get the school buses, then we have one last shot at, from what I'm being told, the Cincinnati School District, getting some buses to them. But that's where we are on the bus situation. We're waiting to hear back from the school district.
And Music Fest is at 29th,
29th.
29th.
September 29th. Thank you.
We were still looking for volunteers.
Always. What is is there a plan to put anything in the newspaper, an article, anything to get more word out?
Believe it or not, it's been on Facebook, and it says that it's reached 21,000 people. I know that I have 1,500 that have actually liked it. So it's
How many of them are
definitely
Russian?
out there.
I don't trust Facebook,
That
but
was bad.
that's a decent number.
That was bad.
But
Well,
you
compared
know,
to last year, I think there were 82 that had actually liked it, and we had, what, 2,500 show up. So, you know, I think we're gonna have a good number of people here.
okay.
You have a press release ready to go.
A press release would be
We
great.
do,
Okay.
but it's a
That's a
matter
good
of the
start.
media actually printing it.
That's why we need to start
That's-
pushing it soon.
Yeah,
I
that's the
agree.
problem.
I know what you mean.
You know, you
Okay.
can send it to the recorder, but then from what we understand, the reporters get together and decide
Pick and
which
choose.
is the most
Really?
important, which sounds like the most intriguing or the most, you know, fun or whatever. And
Sure.
then they only have so much space, and that's it.
Well, some of the online publications, like River City News and
We
others,
got that, yeah.
great.
I think if you put Music Fest and the word naked for naked karate girls, then won't that be a draw? Are
Well,
they-
the banners that are going up, I did order Naked Karate Girl logos, and they are on the corner of the banners now, and
Oh, boy.
they're 2x2,
No
so
way.
you won't miss it.
Yeah, that was- Thank you, ma'am. All right. City Administrator, Mr. Ripper.
I really don't have anything to report, except you can see down where Panera Bread is going, they are in the middle of demolition. That's literally coming down. I've been contacted by Mr. Weber in reference to his property, and he was still wanting to know if the city would be interested in a Wendy's just on his property, which is less than the 2 acres. And I said, really? I said, you have to have 2 acres, or, you know, come back to us with more than one development, and, you know, we'll see what the city says. But at the present time, it's a minimum of 2 acre development.
If that last house in the back corner where they were not tearing down becomes part of it, does he have 2 acres then?
1.9 something,
Okay, so it gets pretty close.
pretty close.
Okay.
We have to take action on that PDS report by the next month,
Next month.
so we need to. take
Because the PDS decision was
To approve it.
approved.
To approve.
And if we don't do anything, it will be approved.
Yeah, what it says is that it can be less than 2 acres, and if you interpret it for him, that means it would apply to him.
To him, okay.
I don't think that was the intent. The other question that I sent around email the other day, I noticed in the original application, we had two provisions about nail salons. Why were they pulled?
I pulled them on number one, recommendation of PDS, because they were going to recommend against it. They were in all of our zones. The nail salons are in all our zones. They were also included in this zone, and we'd be taking it out. We had some language of massage therapy and nail salons. PDS looked at the local cities besides ours. They all have nail salons in them. They felt that, and I discussed this with the mayor, and he felt this is a business decision. If a developer wants to put a nail salon in, that's his choice if it's in the zoning. We have it in all our zones. Do we have too many or do we not have too many? Well, that depends if it makes it or not. If someone puts a nail salon in and it doesn't make it, well, then we got too many.
Business
But right now, we currently have 4, and they're all thriving. And Florence has got zillions of them, and they're all thriving. And due to the fact that they were going to recommend denial, the other cities, it's in all of our zones. I asked him, I said, well, do we leave it in or do we take it out? And they actually called me about it. And I said, well, let me check with the mayor. We pulled it. And that was my recommendation to him based on the neighboring cities and their recommendation.
I had some residents who live back in the Sierra area ask me if the roads would be rebuilt after the construction traffic. And I told them that we were told by the developers that they would fix any problems.
They didn't rebuild them. They would repair anything that was damaged
Repair the damage. Yeah, as needed.
as needed.
Yeah, that's what I told them. That's what I understood. Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
Mayor's report, did he give you anything? You didn't give me anything.
He just said that he was home, he'd rather be here than where he's at. And that was about it.
I'd rather him be here than where he's at. All right, old business? Anything?
Tom asked me before the meeting, I just want to mention to council, if we all remember the donated land of the Marshalls. We passed that municipal order last month about the restriction on the property. I talked to Paul Markgraf last week. I have sent him a revised deed, including attaching both municipal orders as exhibits. I am told that he will have the marshal sign it, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be out of town later this week for a few days. I'm hoping when I get back, there will be a deed on my desk ready for us to get the mayor to sign, and then we will record it at that point. I will say that one of the differences in the deed from the first one I did, and this last one is that in preparing the deed, I made the marshals responsible for paying the taxes on the properties this year. If they had signed in January, that would not have been an issue, I don't think, but it's September, so,
Yeah, good enough, good, sure.
and that's where that is.
So I don't know if this would be under old business or new business. We had a conversation about a message that I received from a resident about Shelter 3 and the noise and that has been there. And, you know, Bob mentioned, you know, and gave us a copy of or at least an excerpt from was it the rental agreement, Bob, I think is where you pulled that from?
Yes.
Or,
Park rules and regs
yeah.
around that.
You know, those houses were there before the park. Whether or not those particular residents were there before the park or not,
They weren't.
but, you know, we built the park with houses in the back. I think we should do something to make that a bit more.
And it's, I was gonna bring this up at the caucus, but we can bring it up now. It would be my recommendation to eliminate music, period, at shelter number 3. That's all we can do. How do you stop all music in the park and then turn around and put a music festival?
Oh, I agree. Which is why I wanted to have a conversation.
Right, so I feel that due to the location of shelter number 3, which is closest to the houses on the side where the complaints are coming from, which I've also talked to one of the residents there that didn't like the restrooms being that close to the residents, which I can't control a lot of, that's where it needs to be. So with that being the problem area, I would recommend to have Mr. Baker do whatever we need to do, municipal order, whatever, to eliminate music in shelter number 3, period. Now, that doesn't stop somebody from taking a radio up there and putting their radio on. If you do it by decibels, I don't know how we're going to enforce that. So the easiest thing is no amplified music.
That's what I was going to suggest. No
Amplified music in shelter number 3.
There's no speakers in shelter 3, are there?
No.
No. But they brought their own.
No, I understand that. You can make the change in the park regulations and you don't need any action by council.
Yeah.
Would a motion now
And
take care of that?
And to your point, though, as a city, we don't have to follow our own rules because we bring amplifiers to that park.
No, I
Whether we're
understand
doing
that.
911
that
events
shelter.
and,
But it
right, but I think you're saying do the whole park,
No.
as opposed to shelter 3.
No,
Oh, okay.
no. What it appears to be is shelter 3 is the problem.
Agreed.
By the regulation, park regulations, we could say no music in shelter number 3.
And we don't need an action by council.
Yeah.
That way you don't need any action by council.
Do we need a municipal order for that?
Mm-mm.
Just add it to it.
Do we need a motion of council to?
Probably a
Yeah.
consensus, that would help.
Okay, I will make a motion that the shelter 3 be limited to no amplified music, speakers, sounds, whatever is the most appropriate way to word that.
Let me ask you this before you get into that. Shelter 3 is our largest shelter other than the main shelter, correct? A large number of people at a
Well,
shelter.
actually, they're about the same
Same
size.
They're about the
size.
same
3
size.
and 2 are the same size.
It's a little bigger.
Just a
Is it a
little.
little bigger? Okay.
So it is big, it's the biggest one then?
Now, one's the biggest one, and then shelter 3 would be the
It
second.
goes 1, 3, 2.
So if it can accommodate, let's say it accommodates 100 people. Well, 100 people can make a lot of noise just talking. Is that part of the problems they were
Don't we have
complaining
a
about?
limit of
or was it-
80?
We have a limit of 80, but it's enforcing it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Was the complaint? the
'Cause they definitely had some
artificial
parties that there was
noise,
more than 80
Or was the
people.
complaint?
The amplified.
The amplified.
The
noise.
Amplified noise.
So
It
that,
was so bad you could hear every word.
no, I understand
at my
that,
house.
I understand that, but if you have like 80 people standing in a
Should put some
group.
trees up.
There is trees.
Well, here, I think the way.
It's all the nerve, I just touched.
You just touched that a little bit.
The way you're gonna, the best way to.
Thank you.
The best way to control that is to put it in there, no amplified music, like we're talking. And we do have it limited to 80 people. And if we get loud complaints. The problem is, as we have groups that bring in more than 80, if we're notified that, hey, there's 100 people, or our people see it, or the police see it, then we just not rent to that group the next year. We mark it on our list that they exceeded the limit. Because it's really puts a burden on the police. There's no way they know how many people's there, or how many people's coming and
That
going.
begs the other question, where do they all park?
That's so true.
Good question.
Because if you have all 3 shelters in use, we don't have
Get
enough
back
parking.
They park across, if it's
Well,
on a
even
weekend,
some of
they
the
park
soccer
across.
games, they max
over
out
there.
parking. Yeah.
I know, in soccer games, you can't.
So if you have soccer and you have shelters, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
it's,
I guess the question I asked the police, does that make sense, the no amplification, is that easy for you all to enforce?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, so the motion, you all can massage it the way it needs to be, but it's to make a motion that no amplifiers are used in shelter number 3.
Perfect. I'd second that.
Okay, Mike making a motion, Carter second.
put in the shelter or vicinity.
Yeah, because somebody's gonna put it 3 feet outside, so it's not in the shelter.
There you go.
Good call, yeah.
Shelter and vicinity.
Now, how would that be, when you have people on the computer calling in, you have people on the phone, how are they gonna know that? We're gonna have some way to tell them.
Well,
Whenever the rental's done.
let me ask you this, when you get the rental contract, do they get a copy of the rules?
They get a copy of the rules and regulations.
I would just highlight that, the
If
rules
you're
and
gonna put that on
regulations.
rules and regulations, but it's not on there now, so.
We can point it
We're gonna put
out.
it on there.
For
Lori's
the
been-
first year, we should probably try to point it out.
Yeah,
if
Lori's
we
been
can.
pointing out the
Yeah, I
loud
mean, you can
noises
easily
and
do that with
the
highlighting and just,
amount of people anyway.
and as you suggested, you know, all right, so you can't have it at the shelter, I'll have it 10 feet away.
Mhm.
We might have just an artificial barrier and no amplified music in this circle.
What we'll do is we'll put it on there and we'll
If you say within
In our-
8 feet.
Well, the geography of shelter.
print it in the
kind of-
rules, we'll
That's
do
it.
it, highlighted it in red. No amplified music in shelter number 3, and we'll do that in red. And they have to sign for those rules, don't they? That when they sign for the permit, they get a copy of them?
We have shelter rentals online, so no, the rentals, the rules are online.
Well,
That's what I'm saying. when
Do they have to
people
click a
call
little
in
box that says?
They have to click a box saying they agree to the terms.
Yeah, that's what she's just saying, yeah.
Well,
they're
in this
saying
case,
they
it
click
may be.
Right. And April, you're saying they have to click a box that says, I have read the rules of the
Yes.
park regulations,
Yes,
so.
it's like the privacy thing.
Exactly.
Mhm.
If
but
we
we'll,
can.
we'll put that in, highlight it in red and amplified music.
So we have a motion and a second.
Matt Zach,
To
Yes.
amend the regulations for that purpose.
Tom Bergamini,
What?
roll call.
Oh, yes.
Carter Dickerson.
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Darty.
Yes.
Bob Mueller.
Yes.
Now, I'm not gonna be serenaded on a Sunday morning anymore.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Put the Sunday morning
Wake up at
exception.
11.
I can have your neighbor call you.
Any other,
I'm not the one, she already does, and I don't answer.
We don't have any loud pool parties, do we?
I don't talk about my pool.
That's private. That's private.
I think we take this conversation offline.
George, you know better than talk about it.
any other old business? If I dare ask. Anything under new business? Anybody that's in attendance have anything they'd like to share or comment on? Thank you for coming. Chad, anything? No, appreciate it. All right, in terms of upcoming events, September 19th is the Finance Committee meeting, September 20th, the events committee meeting, and September 24th is the caucus, September 29th is Music Fest, and tomorrow will be the 9/11 Memorial, correct? It's 7 p.m.
Is John Lomax coming for that? Did
From
he
what I
ever?
understand, Mike Martin is putting all that together, I think.
Okay,
He
because.
said he made contact with everybody.
Okay, because have we heard from Lomax for the events?
I haven't contacted him.
And my brother will be here at the caucus meeting, so you can write to him by his side.
I'll tell them I
See
know.
his chest puff out.
Oh, boy.
Nothing else? Entertain a motion to
Make a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn?
Matt made a motion, Mike second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye, aye.